Hey everyone! So I know it's been a long time since I put up the challenge, but I finally got some judges together. I finally got some time. This is Jonathan. I'll put all of his CV down here. And then this is Alex. I'll put all of his CV down here. But they're both wonderful debaters and coaches, and us three are going to judge the PM challenge together. Looking over at the camera too. Okay, so I already told them the rules for the PM challenge. Basically, all three of us are going to give a score on the WSCC scale, and then the debaters who get the highest scores are going to get the prizes, the first, second, and third place. But after we do adjudication for each round, we're going to have a discussion and then talk about the video and say our comments on what we liked, what we disliked, and we're not going to be mean. Maybe Alex will. But yeah, so on to the first video. Okay, here it is. This house, was it opposes, supports? This house supports academic streaming? It'll show it. Okay. The first video is Sufyan Raza. Sufyan Raza.
Education comes from passion for learning. For education, it's essential to change, as it's provide what new wants and the ability to satisfy them. Genuflected educators, respected audience, and the distinguished members of the House, today I am standing here to firmly support the motion of the House, as this House support academic streaming. So as a Prime Minister, it is my duty to define the motion and why we are supporting it, and present some arguments. So first and foremost, let me define the motion. So what does the academic streaming really mean? So academic streaming is the process of grouping students into some and several groups according to their interest, their aptitude, and their mindfulness. So instead of applying one size fits all method, we are applying academic streaming. But there is some conditions. The academic streaming should be after primary and secondary education, and should be in authentic way. Let me define why. Said academic streaming at primary and secondary education has so many problems and so many obstacles it may be, as we can take the example of Finland, as when Finland applied academic streaming at this primary level, they had faced the problem of frustration, as the classroom frustration had increased, and they had also a problem of discrimination between the students, and the lack of intellectuality among the students. And the research of the Finland had also revealed that the students are not only learning books at these schools, but they are also learning the way of life, the way of interacting with others, the way of intellectuality. Because of these reasons, Finland, the government and Finland and authorities had to discontinue this kind of academic streaming at primary and secondary education. And we are supporting primary academic streaming after secondary education in an authentic way. It should be in an authentic way. That let me define why. That in India there is a phenomena. There is a stigma associated with the minds of a student and even with the minds of parents, thinking that the students in some streams are more expert than the students in some stream. So let me define. Let me with an example that there is a three streams: science, commerce, and the humanities. So there is a stigma that the parents are thinking that the students in science are more experts than the students in commerce and humanities. So there is a very big, because of these wrong beliefs and stigma associated with minds of students and parents, there are so many problems increases, as the students are happen to choose science and the streams they are not wanted to choose, just because of the stigma and the pressure of the society and parents. As a survey revealed that the students in science field, when asked that why they choose the subject science, they answered that they happened to choose it. They are not, that was not their interest. They happened to choose just because of the pressure from society and parents. So because of this process, their brightened future had become darkened, and the rate of failure and the frustration had also increased. Just because of these reasons, the academic streaming should be in authentic and true way that will provide students a better chance to select the streams according to their interest, not according to their parents and the pressure of reasons that we are arguing academic streaming in today's motion. That academic streaming should be in academy in universities, colleges and schools, but it should be after secondary education. It should not be at primary and secondary one. So just because there are so many problems we had also discussed. And the another one, there is last but not least, it is our duty, it is the duty of students and the duty of teachers to realize that what they are, or if they are, whether they are Albert Einstein or whether they are a writer, they should have to realize what they are in their inside. It's a last but not least, we should have to realize who we are, who am I. So just on the basis of the arguments and the data we had presented, we request the judges to make an argument, make an judgment in our favor. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so that was the first video.
So I'm basing it off like how it's below average. So my take is that there are some interesting ideas, good intro, but like sometimes I can't really follow where he is going. It's a bit confusing on what he's trying to prove or what he's trying to conclude at. It only makes sense at the end, but then I have to connect my brain so much in order to get that full point. So that's why I thought it was a problem with the structure and with the flow of the ideas as well. I think the second thing is that some ideas just tend to be like um flagged for the sake of just flagging it, especially for the second idea about it's our duty to realize who we are. But I don't really see why that's very much related to the topic itself.
Yeah. And I feel like he's just over-reliant on examples. I mean, he brings some interesting examples, but he doesn't really explain why those examples are relevant and the mechanism as to why those examples occur. And then I think he focused a little bit too much on the model itself.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Alexander?
Yeah, I agree. I just had a couple of things. Like the biggest thing for me is that I don't think it's the motion. Like I think post primary and secondary education
That's
is
true.
not like I think the motion is primary and secondary education. Like I think status quo is like don't universities like art isn't the definition of university academic streaming like
That's true.
Yeah.
so like it seems like that's not the motion. So I just think like outside of all the structure and delivery, like it's just an LO, so I can't,
That's fair.
Wait,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it Phil and the parents? That's kind of cute. I actually would have given him points for that. No, that's cute. That's theatrics. He got an audience.
All right. Next video.
Next one.
Okay,
that
video number dos. This house would place a cap on the overall amount of wealth that parents can pass down to their children. Jewel, Rocky.
It's not a secret that we live in a capitalistic society, but it also isn't fair that the vast majority of the people has to live from hand to mouth worrying about putting food on a table, while those who are just born rich get to shake their legs and get richer every single day. On proposition, we tell you that with this wealth cap, we bridge the gap between the rich and poor and help give better opportunity to the most vulnerable in society. That is the world that opposition loses. What is our burden? So, as long as we prove that this wealth cap will bring more benefit than harm, then we win this debate. Let's go to framing. The lottery of birth almost entirely defines how a person's life will be. A child born to a rich family will obviously get way more opportunities compared to those who aren't. The problem comes when in status quo, people who work 50 times harder will never actually get on the same level of success or opportunity as those who were just born rich. And that isn't fair, and that's what we're changing. How does our mechanism work? So, this wealth cap will encompass inheritance, trust funds, and gifts. Gifts like limiting the amount of assets or land a parent can gift to a child. And inheritance, we think that after a parent's death, the remaining money will directly go to government. And this mechanism is possible because a lot of transactions like assets and wealth are already tracked and monitored by the government, and that's how we're going to implement it. Now, before going to argument, I'd like to note that if opposition wants to claim that people will be discouraged and to get more money or save up and in turn affect the economy in a negative way on our side of the house, understand that people don't only work to give their child money. People work hard and earn a lot of money so they can retire early. They also do it because it's just in human nature for us to keep earning more, because we are living in a capitalistic society that always pushes us to spend more and want more. So I think that these rich people will still work just as hard on our side to drive the economy as they do in the status quo. In fact, we flip this argument. I think that when we do have a wealth cap, the economy would thrive even better, which brings us to our first argument, which is to reduce wealth inequality in society. Only on a proposition we can reduce the head start that these children of wealthy families get. Our world champions those who got to where they are and through their own efforts. We foster a generation of people who actually works hard to earn what they have. People coming from rich families will learn to be more dependent on their own abilities instead of their family's fortune, just like the rest of the society have to. This also means the opportunity of those who are rich will be more similar compared to those who aren't. Marginalized communities in society will benefit the most from this change. When the job market, let's say like in businesses, isn't dominated by those with higher models starting out, only then do we get more diversity in businesses that are forming and thriving. We prevent the possibility of a market being entirely monopolized by the rich, and turn to give opportunity for broader economic growth instead of it being centralized to the same people, to the same family. And because of those reasons, so proud to propose.
Really? Alex, you can go first.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. Like the frame is actually quite good. Like the model setup is pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought it was the wrong op argument to preempt. Like, I think it's not the right argument to preempt that like people will not make money. Like I don't, or there's no incentive to make money. But like the idea of preempting is like, super good. And then the argument is fine. Like I think it's fine. Like it could be met better. But the impacting is quite good. Like the market monopolization stuff, the diversity in businesses stuff. Pretty good. There's like a principally thing in frame, which is like smart. And the intro is like super rhetorical. Use a lot of SAT vocabulary words. I like that.
Um, I I think though that in a 4 minute speech, you can't do preemptions, or you can do them only if they're efficient, like in the time usage. And I also think, yeah, the wrong preemption. And then I was wondering, I'm not sure if I didn't hear it correctly, but did we talk about what they would do with the extra tax money that would come in from the wealth cap?
No, you just said it goes
No,
like a
yeah.
Okay.
which is like fair.
Yeah, but then I feel like that's a bit of a wasted opportunity, especially when there's this is effectively like a raise in taxes, right? And so he's also talking about how this gives benefits and opportunities to the
Wait,
poor.
I thought it's just placing a cap. Like, why does the money go back to the government?
So any money that's on the excess of whatever wealth
Right, but
they
wouldn't
have.
parents just like allocate it elsewhere? Like, wouldn't people just like all this means is you can't donate more, you can't give your children more than like 100K.
But in the event of death, right,
Right, but you
wouldn't
don't-
the rest of the money just go to the government?
Well, you have like a will, right? You could leave your estate to your family, maybe you leave some money
But
to your
that
kids.
That just
But
seems like
that-
they would go around the policy then. Like as in if they would only be able to give like say $1 million to the children, right?
Right.
And so the
So
rest
the
of it
rest
goes to
goes to-
other relatives that continue to take care of their children, and then I don't know, it feels like a bit of a squirrel with emotion.
Wait, no, like you can still only give $1 million to your kids, even in your will. It's just like with the rest of your money, you can do with that whatever. Like you can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah. Wait, we were talking about when they die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like old guy, super billionaire dies.
Yeah.
Isn't he gonna have plan for like he's gonna know about this? But isn't he gonna have plan for he's not gonna die with $1 billion and then let
Yeah.
999 million go to the government, right?
Right.
He's gonna like put
No,
it
no, but like
in your like his ass.
say there's like a billionaire, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another billionaire.
Yeah.
They like when they pass, like what is their money gonna go then inside propositions world?
So like if the cap is $1 million, they'll give $1 million to their kids,
And then
and the
900
rest they'll do this
go
whatever.
this.
like wherever their will says. Like assets, stocks, companies, random fling they have in Paris, like whatever, like it could be anything.
So they'll spend it anyway.
Charity, yeah,
Charity.
random things.
Okay.
That sounds. I don't think Gov can tax it. I don't think Gov can say we're gonna take everything else and give it to the government. Right? That's just not the motion. Motion is just there's a legal cap now. But we will.
Whenever I see, maybe it's the wording of this motion in particular, but whenever I see this motion,
It's
always-
inheritance tax.
It's inheritance.
But that's
Yeah,
different from
well,
cap
a
on
wealth
Yeah.
cap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
What keeps a cap?
Did we just get schooled by Alex?
No. I think that's different from
No.
inheritance tax though.
Yeah,
I might be
this
wrong.
is different from inheritance.
But if I was off, I'd be like that.
The
You
amount
can't
of wealth
do
that
that.
parents can pass down. Some.
Wait,
Yeah, I think
whatever.
Yeah,
go
that's-
back to the
yeah, yeah.
speech. I think the thing that I didn't like the most was there was a lot of time spent on this preemption.
Mm.
But the framing, the setup, the intro, all of that stuff was strong.
I agree with everything. It's just that I thought it would have improved a lot if I see more the humane aspect of the people involved in this.
Sure.
So, for example, I don't know what parents would feel like or what the child would feel like. So, that perspective to me is a bit like important after the principle because I thought the principle was solid, but it took quite long in the speech per se.
All right. Okay. Number 3. Academic streaming.
Forget a star shine.
No, it's hell yeah.
Oh.
It
Wait,
hell
Star shine.
hell yeah. No.
Peace. So fire name.
Funny. Okay. All right.
Start.
Judges, the education life will bring a better generation and make the gold generation. So we proud to propose. But move to my setup. This 3 point of setup that I want to deliver in this speech. Firstly, what happened in the status quo, and secondly, how academic streaming looks like in our side, and then third, weighing framing. Okay, firstly, what happened in the status quo? Judges, I think many students feel insecure because they are feel dumb or anything like that. Oh, and then secondly, they feel like they get bullying because they are not as smart as like their friend, and there is the stigmatization in the country, and there's the stigmatization in that school. If you are not smart at math, you are dumb in the end of the day. Okay, so we don't want this has happened for a long term, right, judges? We want to solve it, judges. But in here, secondly, how academic streaming looks like in our side. Okay, I think 2 things here. First, we want to make a classification for the class based for the example like this is the specifically for the beginner of the English class. For example, this is the intermediate, maybe like that is the advanced class, for example. Okay, the second, we focus on high school student. Why? Because they are searching their own capability. They are still searching for their own possibility, and then they have their own potential, right, for their job life in the end of the day. Okay, I think in opposition framing, they might say like, I think like they have to help each other, so we don't have to use this academic streaming. There is the diversity in their side, but I think like it can happen because of what? Vulnerable actor in here is teenager. High school is teenager, so they have the unstable mentality. In the end of the day, they will discriminate the other people because they feel like they are best, or maybe like they feel like I'm better than them, for example. This is what we do not want, right, judges? Okay, I think they have to explain why if stay in the status quo is better and beneficial for the short term and the long term in the end of the day, right? Okay, move to my argument. There's two issues here. First, why academic streaming can be justified. I think, okay, just look at the problem status quo. It's insecure bullying that's happened, and judges, we want to solve that problem, judges, right? Okay. Um, even if the opponent team said like, oh, it will make a discrimination, I think like no. So because they have the same class, they have their same capability, so like maybe they can help in each other at the end of the day, and then like they will compete with their each other because they have in the same class, right? So what is the premise in this argument? I think it is quite simple. Because of what? We want to solve it, right? We want to solve this problem, right? So that's why I propose.
I can start this time.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, first of all, her framing was good in moments, but it became quite convoluted when she started preempting an opposition argument about discrimination in her framing. And then her main push is a refutation against what the opposition might say, and doesn't really talk about the benefits of academic streaming itself. And so it's not really building her case. It's more so, again, more preemption, the argumentation. And so those were the two things that I was not as fond of. And then her stance is a little bit soft because she's saying that the streaming would only happen in high school, where I believe in high school there already is certain forms of academic streaming, such as like some students can like take the IB track and other students can take the normal track. Or there's like calculus versus just taking the regular math. I'd say like structure wise, she did a lot of good stuff. Like but I think stylistically, definitely can work on being a little bit more clear. Stutters, a lot of moments where she's having to think about what she'll say next, things like that.
Wait. Should I go second?
Okay.
So the good thing that I will say about her is she seems to know the direction for what she wants to say, but it tends to be very simplistic in nature. So part of all of her speeches rely on proving why she will avoid the harm of discrimination and bullying. While that's clear in a direction sense, I don't think she fully proves why that's certain or why that problem is going to be fully resolved. So I think the solvency part is very it's not good. It's not proven well. I think the second thing is that I think she focused, yeah, I agree with Erin that she focuses much more on what opposition could say rather than, for example, what are the actual benefits of academic streaming aside from mitigating what it does negatively for students.
Oh, different motion.
Carbon price? Whoa.
Wait. So the motion is this house. No. This house would mandate carbon pricing for all industries.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Wait, so this is Jonathan Mendo.
Jonathan. Okay, wait. Yeah, I got it right.
What is it? Carbon cap?
Yay! It's Jonathan. Jonathan, how do you think he'll do?
Dude, his posters in the back, fire, by the way.
I think he's gonna do
Those
well.
are like two of the
I think he's
greatest
gonna do
fans
well.
of all time.
He's also got a gamer chair.
That's
like
so
he's
fun.
fire.
Represent
I like
with
the
Jonathan
already.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Panel, unchecked corporations spread like cancer, expanding as if resources were infinite in a finite world, relentlessly degrading our climate and endangering our future. Survey had to propose. This panel told three things for today in my speech. Firstly, some framing, then a few mechanisms, and then a few impacts. So let me start off with the framing, and with that, characterization and carbon pricing. Firstly, it will be a mandated tax on carbon emissions in all industries, and it would also include a border carbon tariff, which is basically a fee that charges imported goods based on how much they pollute to prevent both carbon leakages and loopholes, but more on that later. Now, we would also introduce a minimum threshold for the tax, so small businesses would not be harmed. The cost for the tax would be around $100 per ton of CO2, though this can still be increased if a company is not obliged or if it pollutes an exorbitant and unnecessary amount. Now, the profit would be used for company subsidies and rebates for low-income households during the transition period, and after the transition, it would be used for funding eco-friendly initiatives. Now, finally, regarding the feasibility, we have the fear to believe it is actually feasible. Now, what are the burdens in this debate? We have to prove to you that carbon pricing is more effective at fighting climate change than the initiatives in the status quo, whilst our opposition is to prove to you specifically why carbon pricing mechanism would be disadvantageous. So let me come to my main argument. What is our thesis? We believe that companies would be incentivized to be eco-friendly through the tax. But firstly, let's analyze the status quo. Currently, panels of companies being destroyed. This looks like companies polluting with very high CO2 emissions. Now, we must admit, there is some infrastructure and some regulatory measures, but the issue is panel, they're not properly enforced, and companies often undercut them through loopholes. One pretty major one being carbon offsetting, where companies simply relocate high carbon producing industries to foreign countries with less stringent regulations. Now we tackle this directly with our model through our carbon tariff panel, which note that this directly actually impacts this and makes this and actually fights this directly. Or the second thing that they like to do panel is they simply greenwash to pretend integrity while actually polluting the company regardlessly, since pretending to care about something is way cheaper than actually doing it. Now, let me come to my mechanisms. I have a total of 2 key mechanisms prepared for you today panel. The first one being, companies will regulate themselves. Now, why is that so? Basically, companies want to maximize profit, to satisfy stakeholders and dwell in the stock market. Now, this often happens at the expense of the environment, since climate initiatives do cost a lot, as they often require new infrastructure or frameworks. Now, this second key issue is panel, there's a sort of first mover disadvantage on the status quo, right panel, where an individual company switches to greener but pricier alternatives, but the competition produces cheap. So there isn't real incentive for them to continue producing because it's simply uncompetitive for them outside opposite side of the house, right? So let me come to my second mechanism, the fact you have to give them an economic incentive where they can make more profit if they abide by the carbon tax. Now the thing is, panel, we level out the playing field and incentivize pro-climate policy because now, panel, it's less risky to invest in green technology and infrastructure, and companies are more willing to meaningfully contribute in the fight against climate change, while also the minimum tax threshold gives companies sort of incentive to lower emissions because we already proved to quite extensively that companies will take the economically best option. So when if a company continues to not pay, they will in the end actually pay more since the tax will increase. So in the end, long-term avoidance is not very likely. Now let me give you a short way, but a long-term, short-term scenario for this. Why are we more sustainable in the long term? The fact is, panel, in the short term, yes, we're going to have to make some sacrifices. People will suffer slightly, but in the end, panel, we actually are still going to help them, right? Because our short-term subsidies and rebates will help, and panel, most countries still have a social system which will help these people, right? And but the issue is, panel, and the big payoff for this panel is the long term, right? Because in the long term, we're going to be much better off than whatever side opposite is going to give to you. Because panel, in comparison to an opposition panel, their companies will most likely only take the most drastic changes when carbon pricing, where carbon becomes economically infeasible. But at that point, panel, it's already too late and they're less prepared, which means there's going to be more unplanned action an opposition, right? And note, panel, we are on our side, we are being more preemptive and not subjugating people to this under the pretense of economic profit. So what are the impacts of all this, panel? The most important one obviously being impact on climate. Since now there's less oil pollution in major companies which are eco-friendly alternatives, which means we're going to have less drastic climate events, and overall this is going to cost less for all, especially since the consumer, since his or her prices won't go up when climate change eventually disturbs international trade in comparison to said opposition, which is exactly why I'm so very proud to propose. Vote that proposition. Thank you very much.
Wait, Jonathan, you also on this one?
Yeah, so what I really liked about this speech is that he went in full detail towards every incentive stakeholder want to talk about. So companies, future projects, etc., are also making sure that there's enough pressure, and he covers all the ground between, even if it somewhat negatively affects them, it's not going to be that bad. So that's good mitigation for that, guys. I think he really took a very detailed approach for me. I think this one is one of the. I think I'm willing to give this speech a really high score.
Sneak peek, yeah, I mean, I gave him a high score, but I think that he complexified certain things a little bit too much. By the way, I agree with all the positive things that you said about him. He was able to preempt a lot. And I was waiting for the impact, but the impact came. And the only thing is that I think he relies a little bit too much on a really detailed model where he's using quite a bit of fiat. I don't think he needs to use as much as he is. He's talking about rebates, and he's talking about ways in which to mitigate some of the harms that might come with this extra tax in the model itself. I do think that you might need to take a little bit of a trade-off here, instead of trying to use as much fiat as you can. But I'm being really nitpicky. I do think that he does sacrifice clarity for speed, for sure. Right? There are a lot of moments where I had to really, really listen. I think it also had to do with just his a little bit of quietness. It might be his recording device.
Yeah, that was nice on him.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Alex?
I think that was shockingly close to a perfect 4-minute PM on this.
Yeah,
I think it very, very close.
Uh-uh.
Like if I had like 15 minutes to prep, like I don't really know if there's too many things I would do super differently. Yeah, maybe the rebate stuff is a bit much. But I thought frame in and out perfect, like every aspect of it is great. Minimum threshold for small businesses, border fee tariffs, mandatory escalating tax, like compounded over time, perfect. The argument like structured super nicely, mechanisms are great, impacting is great, the
comments
even
is
stuff
so
is
great.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it gets, I mean, this is a stop motion, but I don't think it, like, he just hit all the, yeah, I thought it was very good.
That was really good.
That was very good. Yeah. It is fast, but I don't really care so much about, like, the clarity aspect of, if I understand it.
Great job, Jonathan. Good job.
Yeah.
I knew it from the Green Day poster.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, by the way, Jonathan, make sure that you're
Oh, yes.
in. All right. Next one.
kid.
We could say it together. No. Alexander Chen.
Really bad.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's you. It's
Yeah.
you now.
It's next, Aaron.
Oh my gosh. So there's a Jonathan and there's an Alex. Okay, let's.
Is it the same motion that the
Yeah.
other person did?
Yeah.
This one be good.
Let's hear it.
All right, let's hear it.
Good.
Inheritance is a weapon leveraged by the most privileged in society to systematically oppress the most vulnerable and to shackle them in place at the very bottom of the social ladder, never prouder to propose. Two things I'm going to do in this speech. First, some setup, and second, two substantives on the principle and pragmatic levels of this debate. Two key pieces of setup then, first of all. Number one, who are the types of people who would pass down money from generation to generation? Overwhelmingly, we say that it's going to be people who have already cemented themselves in the upper class, intuitively as a virtue of them not needing to spend money for themselves on things like getting food on the table, things like paying rent. Secondly, what is this cap likely going to look like? A, it would look like a gradually decreasing cutoff of how much money you're allowed to pass down, with anything beyond that redistributed or used for public services, things like infrastructure projects and education. B, with that said, the cap is likely going to be set just above the amount of money people need for basic essential goods, paying rent, and going to university. A key observation here is that lower or middle class families are largely still able to save up money for their children to get an education, for instance, because that would still be under the cap. With that, let's move on to the first argument then, about the principal reason why inheritance is fundamentally unfair. Three layers under this. Number one, a key thing to note is the idea of the birth lottery, or the fact that circumstances people are born into are completely arbitrary, i.e. one does not do anything to be born into a single parent family with 6 children, and neither does a child born into a nice rich family with maids tending to their every need. Secondly, given that, why is wealth passed down unjust? It is for a simple reason that people born into well-off families are not there because of merit or any of their achievements, meaning that the money that they get is something that they did not earn. Thirdly, even if you do not buy that, it is very often that the money accumulated and inherited was gained through oppressive practices. For instance, in the United States, many wealthy families are direct descendants of slave owners. That is to say that much of their wealth that they accumulated generationally traces back to the fact that they exploited and dehumanized vulnerable African Americans. Even recently, things like patriarchy and discrimination still give women and marginalized communities far less opportunities at the workplace. All of this proves why inheritance is principally unjust. Panel, notice how this operates independently of the practical implications of this debate, so this argument in and of itself is a reason why this motion should stand. But now, onto the second argument of how we win not only on the principle, but also in terms of real-world implications. The thesis of this argument is very simple. Introducing a cap on the amount of wealth inherited creates a more even playing field for all and ultimately benefits society. This occurs in two ways. First of all, the redistribution of excess inheritance means that the lower class gains access to better education, allowing them to pursue more higher paying jobs to uplift their families. With things like better infrastructure, additionally, they don't have to drive hours to get to work, for example. Secondly, we say that this cap on inheritance means that there's less accumulation of wealth in the future simply because it does not get to continuously add on. With that, this means that the upper class now becomes unable to make large donations to schools, for example, to ensure that their children get in or lobby the government. Notice how even if we take opposition at their best case and assume that maybe families are able to indirectly pass down wealth in the first few generations, it still means that there's less wealth accumulated in the long term. The impact of this is threefold. This argument matters because not only one, lower class families can uplift themselves out of poverty with equal opportunities, but also two, society becomes more based on a meritocracy, which means that the more naturally suitable individuals are selected for positions rather than the ones with the most resources, leading to more talent in workplaces, more abilities to innovate and develop solutions to society's problems. And three, there's going to be more diversity in that corporate boards and other areas that aren't purely composed of the upper class, meaning that you get an exchange of new ideas and perspectives that allow companies to do better and also benefit new sectors previously unreached. Because we uphold what is morally just, liberate the most struggling in society from their chains, and build a greater world for all, we're very, very proud to propose.
Okay, Alex, what do you think about Alex?
I thought it was good. I thought it was better than the other inheritance speech. Like I think the principle is super solid. Like probably all the correct parts of it, except for the weighing, but like probably all the correct parts of it. I still don't think this is the motion. Like the second stuff is just like we get rid of inequality because my model is that we're gonna redistribute it to like public services. And this is not the motion. Even if it was, you don't get to fiat that the government uses it for a thing. So even if it does go to the government, they'll probably just like put it into the military. You know, like this is definitely not the motion. Like this is definitely not. I'm
Am
mad.
I crazy?
I'm
Like,
mad.
I
It's
feel
not the
like
motion.
this is the motion,
No,
though.
it's definitely not.
I mean, it's just tax, right?
It's no, it's not a tax. Because won't rich people just use it all before they die? They'll just use all of it and put it in like companies. You can't tax anything they don't give.
But they don't know when they'll die.
fair.
Like they don't. There will be some that use it all, right? But there will be a lot of billionaires who just don't know when they die.
No, but they'll have it tied up in assets.
No,
and
I
stocks.
agree. I agree.
No, but then we were assuming that everything would get taxed, right?
But there's no,
everything.
like, where in the motion do you get to tax?
So it just means like
It just
there's
that
no
you
limit
can't
that you
give
can.
more than a billion
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
your child.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can give $1 billion to your company and to all of its shareholders, or $1 billion to charity, or $1 billion to your
I think it's just
friend. Like you can give $1 billion to your friend if you want.
Right. But if you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Then wouldn't just billionaires just give like each other, right? Like there would be like, oh, I'll give your children the rest of my inheritance, and then you give
Yeah,
my
that's a possibility.
children.
That's totally possible.
Yeah.
The argument you need to make is like capital gains tax. Like whenever you give someone a large sum of money, that gets taxed. If I transfer you $1 billion,
No, I understand. I
Millions.
understand that. I understand that would, but then you can still make the same argument then.
With what?
That you still increase the overall amount of tax that the government takes, and thus that tax can be redistributed into other services that the government
I don't think you can redistribute it to like soup kitchens. Like that's what he's saying, but I don't think you can do that. Like where do they get the fiat? Like where does he get the corporate tax? And then where does he get the fiat to be like Congress, great old liberal U.S. Congress will make it so that the money goes to soup kitchens?
No, wait, you do have fiat in this motion. Wait, let me just
wait. What's the wording actually?
This house would place a cap.
On the overall amount of wealth that parents can pass down to the children. Yeah, that doesn't give you anything.
Yeah.
That doesn't give you.
Because like at least if they were able to say there was a punishment for it, then we could probably see where the money goes.
Yeah, that doesn't give you fun.
Yeah.
I think.
Maybe I really just like misunderstand the motion.
I could be super wrong. They still don't think it's like.
But I can see it going in different directions.
Wait, I might
Like
change.
a cap could also mean different when the government.
But given that interpretation,
because
it's a good speech. It's a good speech.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, I'm scoring given that interpretation.
Yeah, I'll do it too. Yeah, I agree.
I thought he was really good.
Yeah,
Like
it was.
he had, felt like he had 8 minutes of content in a 4 minute speech. His principle was really clear.
Yeah.
His practical benefits were quite clear, and his principle was mechanized in 2 different ways. And then the counterfactual was given. He talked about oppressive regimes. Talked about birth lottery.
Yeah.
He is surely a Boso fan. The thing that I liked the most though is that he took a very high burden. He said that they would only be able to pass down enough money for university and basic necessities. And so that's like that I really appreciated. It was just very clear-cut debating just all around.
That's kind of a low burden.
Wait,
Like he said, you can pass out money for like unis and housing.
No, not housing, just like
Oh, I heard housing.
No,
Okay,
food.
but like
Uni and food.
wait, uni is like
Uni basically
400K
essential
though.
goods.
Like is what he said. Like uni
Uni and
is like
essential.
400K.
Like that's a
But you can still pass out
I
close
think
to $1 million.
For me, that's just obligation.
well, again, depends on the uni you get into, but
Yeah, but like, you know.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's just.
I think you should the high burden would be you can't pass down anybody to your kids. That's
no,
I
it's
think
a
I
cap. It's a cap, right?
It is a
Right?
cap.
Mm,
But
yeah.
it have to be.
A cap would never be at zero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I agree. All right, Johnny.
I think the same. Like this speech is just clear cut. Everything is complete. I think what I appreciated about it is that the complex concepts were intuitively explained. Like I would say oppressive practices, birth lottery and stuff like that. So that I think this speaker benefits a lot from clarity and structure.
I really like clear
Yeah.
speakers. Very clear speaker. But
Yeah,
I
he's
might be being the worst point
But I
guard
think
right
I
now.
think
He's good.
the next speaker, Aaron.
No, I hope so. It's like just me in a wig.
Yeah.
Gabi.
Gabi Suarez.
Okay, we don't take off points for wrong camera angles.
Maybe she adjusts.
Oh wait, it's fine.
Obviously. Oh, okay. All right, let's get started.
Panel, I want you to think of a student sitting in the back of the classroom. The teacher's words sound like noise. They are lost. They are embarrassed to ask questions, fearing that they will be deemed too dumb or too basic. And every day, they stop believing in themselves a little more. And then think of the kid who knows all the answers but is told to wait, to slow down, to sit quietly while others catch up to their level until they stop raising their hand altogether. In both stories, we lose potential. We waste talent not because these kids couldn't do more, but because we forced them into a system that caused them to stagnate and pretended one size fits all. Streaming, that is the process of assigning specific classes to students on the basis of their academic prowess in a subject, fixes this problem. It says you matter, your pace matters, and you deserve to learn in a room built for you. We frame this debate on one core principle, that is, treating every student the same is not fairness, it is negligence. Fairness is meeting each student where they are and building them up from there to where they could be. Streaming creates classrooms that challenge the fast, support the struggling, and let everyone grow. That is the world we fight for. That is the world we believe in as proposition. As government, our burden is quite simple. We need to prove that the key stakeholder of this debate and of the education system, that is the student, is best served in a system where they are streamed by their academic ability. Moving on to my first argument then on how academic streaming improves focus and learning outcomes. Panel, note that in a mixed classroom, weaker students hesitate to ask questions, as I earlier pointed out, scared that they'll be called too dumb or too basic for asking such questions. Stronger students, on the other hand, feel held back or worry that speaking up will make them seem arrogant. They will be deemed as too nerdy, maybe. This creates a classroom where neither end is fully participating, right? So it basically discourages true democratic participation in a classroom. But now, when these students are placed in ability-based groups, these fears disappear. Weaker students engage without judgment, and stronger students finally face material that they feel like is challenging them. The result is that this obviously leads to higher participation in the classroom, lesser distractions in the form of social hierarchies or social pressure or anxiety, which leads to more focus, more concentration on the learning material that is actually being taught, and this ultimately leads to better learning outcomes, which is exactly what the education system exists to achieve. Moving on to my second argument on how streaming creates stronger, more efficient support systems. This has two subparts. Firstly, teachers. Note that in mixed classrooms, teachers struggle to teach across ability gaps. This is because they have they have students who are doing excellent academically, but they also have students who can't grasp concepts as fast as those academically excellent ones. Therefore, the teachers have to find some middle ground, and they teach on the basis of what an average child is likely to learn. But with streaming, teachers are now able to better understand the level of their class, and they can tailor their explanation, spacing, and practice to the level of the class. This makes teaching sharper and more effective. B part, parents. Streaming gives parents clarity. They know where their child stands, and therefore they're able to help them better, and they're not over expecting or underestimating their child. Now, opposition may argue that parents will pressure kids in higher sections or taunt kids in lower ones, but let's be clear, this pressure exists more intensely on their sides in mixed classrooms where parents constantly compare their child to the smartest kid in class. At least this way, they know where their child stands and are better able to provide them with what they want. Op also may argue that this system might entrench inequality or reflects bias, but panel, that is a flaw of implementation and not the concept, and we can easily correct this using standardized and transparent assessment. Ultimately, proposition stands for every child that's ever been left behind and every child that's ever been held back, and therefore we are so proud to propose.
I really think that this debater really understood this motion very well. Her preemptions were on point. She pointed out the two largest like pushes that could come from all. I think she understands the 4-minute format very, very well. And there was, I would say, enough of a balance of explaining stakeholders from like a micro lens, but also explaining incentives, and explaining stakeholder sort of behavior. I think her vocal ability was great. Her framing was great. Honestly, structurally, I think she was quite good as well. Yeah, and I think the mechanisms are really clear as to how she's reaching her end impacts. Yeah, I think I really like the speaker.
You want to go next?
Sure.
What?
I think I points very hard, based on what Aaron said. I was a little worried it would be too rhetorical, like with the intro and everything, and then the next were kind of a repeat of the intro. But it turned out not. It's like a bunch of content. I thought the second sub was particularly strong. Like the stuff about how support networks get more clearer and tailored and navigated and streamlined. I thought that was pretty good. And then the impacting is always there, is pretty good. And I thought the preempts were both the right ones at the end. Could model better. I don't know, maybe you could frame better, but like it's fine. You don't really need to frame this motion, I don't think. Too much. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with like everything you said.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. Nothing problematic in particular. I would just maybe as a point of improvement, it's just to I feel like maybe she could just add a little bit sense of urgency a bit more because I feel like it's a relaxed speech of like, yeah, we have a solution. It's too chill, but I don't feel stylistically that there is a huge problem. But anything else is good. So yeah.
But let's finish the other
Yeah.
two.
Okay. Yeah, these are my viewers. Like, I'm so happy.